So hello, everybody. I learned this week how to count to 10 in Japanese. Ichi, ni, san, shi, go, roku, nana, hachi, ku, ju. And today I'm going to teach you everything you need to know about the app Seeing AI. This is What Did We Learn This Week? Ooh, I told you it was going to be a problem. I'm supposed to have a music transition here. Let's see if this works. There we go. I don't know if you can hear this. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the third episode of What Did We Learn This Week? This is a show where I share technology tips, tricks, and short lessons that I have provided to my customers over the last week with you. I'm Jonathan, and I work for Minnesota State Services for the Blind as a technology trainer. My clients range from low vision to totally blind, and I help them stay independent through the use of technology like computers, tablets, and like we're going to talk about a lot today, smartphones. Today is October 2nd, 2020. So for this episode, we're going to be covering just one topic, but we're going to be going in very, very deep. We're going to be talking about Seeing AI. And Seeing AI is an app from Microsoft for the iPhone and the iPad, and it uses computer learning to do a variety of tasks, including reading text, identifying objects, and describing photographs. Remember that in future episodes, you can ask questions ahead of time and suggest topics. If you would like them to be included in future episodes, all you have to do is call up our What Did We Learn This Week question hotline at 320-428-0122. I'm going to repeat that again slower. That's 320-428-0122. When you call that number, you'll get an answering machine where you can leave your question or topic suggestion. So we're not going to cover every topic that's suggested, but if you do think you've got a good idea or a question you'd like to have addressed on the show, go ahead and call that number one more time. That's 320-428-0122. And one last thing before we begin, we mentioned this last week, if you want to or have someone you think would be interested in getting invitations to these live meetings, they can receive an email notification and sign up on the webpage blind.support/signup. No spaces. That's right. It's blind.support/signup. And you just go in lowercase, you put in your email and your name, and we will send you that notification about new episodes. And right now we're looking at probably doing these every other week. Right now we're doing them on Fridays, and we'll be usually announcing what the new topics is going to be the following weeks. So right now it's the 2nd. So on the 9th, we'll be sending out an email announcing what the following week's subject is going to be, if you are curious. And then hopefully in that upcoming invitation, I will be able to link to you to archived episodes so you can watch the old episodes online. So if you want to get those messages, check it out at blind.support/signup. Blind.support also has got some various resources I've put up, and I'll put in notifications on that site as well. So with that, let's get right into it. We're going to be talking about the Seeing AI app. All right, so Seeing AI, as I mentioned, is an application from Microsoft. And I'm going to be, you can get it for free, I should say, from the App Store on the iPhone. And its name, just to be absolutely clear, is Seeing AI. The A stands for artificial, and the I stands for intelligence. So it's Seeing Artificial Intelligence, or Seeing AI. It is a completely free app. You can find it in the App Store, and the easiest way to do so, if you have Siri, is to ask Siri, search the App Store for Seeing AI. You can also do a Google search for Seeing AI. It's a very popular app, so it's right at the top of any search results here. Now, the first time you open up the Seeing AI app, it is going to ask you for a couple things, and I can't simulate those easily on the phone right now. So I just want to let you know when you open it up, there's a couple of things the app is going to ask you about. So I'm just going to walk us through what those things are. So when you first open the app, you're going to be presented with two things, a little introduction to the app, a agreement that you have to agree to that says that they're not liable if the app makes a mistake. So if you're trying to use it for navigation or reading something important, they're just warning you that this should not be 100% relied upon. So I reiterate that it's not a good idea to use Seeing AI to try to read the instructions on a prescription bottle, for example, where an error could be very, very bad. So they have you agree to a license agreement that you're not going to overly rely on, or I should say a legal agreement more than a licensing agreement. And they will also, the app will also ask you to give it permission to access the camera. And so that, well, basically everything Seeing AI does uses the camera. It uses that machine learning, or which is part of AI, to identify objects and read them, and it has different modes. So for this presentation, you can use Seeing AI with large print. You can actually, it will follow the settings app and set everything in large print. And for this presentation, for the visual portion, I'm going to have the large print turned on, but I am also going to be running VoiceOver, the screen reader, on pretty much the entire time we're using Seeing AI. So anything that, if you are using it more low vision, I'm going to be pointing out what you're going to tap. But when I mention flicking to the right or flicking to the left or doing a 2-finger scrub, that you're just going to be pressing buttons instead. And I'll point those out. But I just thought it would be easier. And since so many of the people using it are going to be VoiceOver users, I'm going to leave it on the whole time and do the demo accordingly. So you can just ignore some of those VoiceOver commands. I think that's easier than me trying to do certain parts of the presentation twice over. So for the visuals, though, I am going to share a copy of what's on my iPhone screen for this entire time. I am going to open up Seeing AI in just a moment. There's one more note I just remembered before I get up and going here, and that is if you, the first time you open up the Seeing AI app, it's broken into these things called channels. We're going to see those in just a moment. Whenever you move through a channel for the first time, Seeing AI will present you with a help screen. And that help screen, if you use VoiceOver, flick through it, or if you've got large print, you read on the screen, is going to be some basic instructions on how to use each of these modes. I've moved through all of them. So when I go to each one, I'm not going to see that help menu, but I'll show you how to get to that help menu after you, if you're trying to go back for the second time, for example. So if you are downloading the app and following along for the first time ever, when you open up each of these channels, if you're trying to follow along with me here, you're going to get a help screen that pops up. Now I'm going to cover everything in that help screen. So you can tap the back button in the top left corner, or do a 1-finger double tap, because it'll put you right on that back button to go back to the channel and get rid of that help mode. Like I said, we'll talk about how to get to it. So that's the one last little detail before we jump right into it. So I've got my phone here. I'm showing my screen. I'm going to turn on VoiceOver.
VoiceOver on. Messages. 1 unread message. Maps.
And I'm just checking the mic icon here on mine.
Photos. Camera.
Okay, it
Photo.
looks like
map. Messages.
everybody
1
can
unread
hear.
message.
I've got a little headset in here so I can hear it as well. So I'm going to open up the Seeing AI app. It's a little teal icon, but I'm going to open it up by asking Siri for me. Open Seeing AI.
Menu. Button. Quick help. Button.
Okay, so I've got the app opened up here, and immediately what it does is two things. I've got my phone flat on the desk right now so it doesn't talk over me here. When you open up Seeing AI for the first time, and generally when it launches fresh, it launches right into a mode called short text mode. Now, short text mode is for reading short selections of text. It's not for reading an entire piece of mail or a page of a book. There actually is a mode that we're going to talk to in a moment. This is the short text mode. This is for quick identification. So the types of things we might identify here, I've got some examples here. So I've got a box here, and it is of we bought just a pack of these greeting cards. And some of them were thank you notes. Some of them are get well soon. There are all these different themes so that we could send them out at different times of year. I want to know what version am I holding right now in this box here. So I'm going to put the box down on a surface, and I'm going to take my phone in Seeing AI in the short text mode, and I'm going to point it at the box. A couple things before I point it here is we generally want to hold it about 8 to 12 inches away. And the reason why we're holding it a little bit farther away is, first of all, maybe we're not sure exactly how to get the camera pointed at the object. If we haven't practiced a lot, then holding a little farther back is going to give us a little bit more forgiveness if we're not dead on in the center. And the other reason why is the iPhone camera actually can't focus less than 6 inches away. And so what that means is everything shows up blurry to the camera, and that's going to give it really low accuracy. So I'm going to take this phone, I'm going to place it on top of the object that I want to read, and then I'm just going to lift it off about 6 to 8
10
inches.
thank you notes. Green. With soy.
So you might have heard it said 10 thank you notes. Green, because it does have the word green over here.
Notes.
And it said with
10 thank you
soy.
notes. Printed on FSC certified paper with soy inks. Green.
So as I hold it, as soon as anything new comes in, any new text that it can read, it will read it immediately. This is nice because it means I can just quickly
Notes.
point it at what I
You
want.
notes. 10 thank you notes. Printed on paper with soy inks. INSPIR ed.
But what you'll also notice is that if I hold my hand and it shakes a little bit, it moves around, it sees that it's moved, and it tries to read something else. So it can be a little aggressive when reading. If you've got voiceover turned on like I do,
10 thank you notes.
you can do a 2-finger tap on the screen to pause that voice or to get it to stop reading. Now, immediately when it thinks it sees some new text, it's going to start reading again. So I'll usually stick that camera in the palm of my hand, or I put it down on the table just so it doesn't see anything new to read until I'm ready for my next item. If you are using this without voiceover, that 2-finger tap's not going to work. You just tap the icon that says short text again, and that'll interrupt it. Now it's going to say short text because it thinks you're changing the channels, but that'll cut it off. It's in the middle of reading something here. So I'm going to flip this box over. It's got some more text. Let's just haphazardly point.
10 note cards with envelopes. Printed envelopes. What inspires you? For us, it's fresh air. Click note cards with 10 note cards with cards
So if I
envelopes.
move my hand, you'll hear it. Here, I'm going to cut it off here. Move my hand too much, it starts rereading. So great for spot reading, but not great for reading something that's much longer. So great tool for finding out that this is my thank you cards here. Let's give some other examples, though. Let's see what works and what doesn't work with Seeing AI. So I've got another thing here. It's a tin. It's round. If I was to pick it up, I could say, I know there's some mints that come in these little tins here. There's a variety of different things. Now, honestly, I could open it up and I could touch the contents to see what's inside. But the reason why I am using this is that it has text that is big and bold. It has some stuff that's rounded. And when I point my camera at it,
Kinetic sand. In Sweden.
here it says kinetic sand
Inches.
in Sweden.
MRSS. Kinetic sand.
So I figure out what it is, but it is missing. It's not reading this text that goes along the top. This is a smaller print and it's arched. And because it's put on in a decorative way, Seeing AI has a hard time identifying it. It says, warning, this is not an edible item. Keep it away from children under 6. So it doesn't read me this warning label because it is round, but it does read the main text on it. So it does have some problems if the text is presented in a decorative or presented in an arch or rounded. And I could be missing important information here. So I'm just showing what some of the limitations are. Another item that we're going to come back to is I've got a can of something here. And I might pick up this can and give it a shake. It definitely sounds soupy. Maybe it's a can of beans. I'm not entirely sure. It's got obviously must have text on it, so quick text seems like a good tool for it. If I hold, but of course that's hard to know if I'm holding it the right direction. If I pointed at the can,
SDRVLN 23,000, 21% T, preserving percent DD bullet, socks, 25, 16G, 25%, 40%.
so I'm getting some information here, but it's not really clear. I could spin the can around and point it, try again.
Franks.
Said Frank's here, and I go, well, I'm not able to figure out from there what this is. It's not a can of hot dogs. It's a can with some hot dogs in it. It's actually SpaghettiOs here. But that's not, it gives me some hints, but it's not super great. That's why we're going to talk about the product mode in just a little bit and come back to this can here. So I might be able to use this to quickly try to identify this can here, but I kept doing quite a bit of figuring out on my own. So we're going to come back to the can. So great for envelopes, great for mail coming in. Is it junk mail? Is it mail I'm going to want to keep? I can get that information from the short text mode. Great for identifying things quickly, but it has its flaws, especially if we're doing it in the kitchen where a lot of kitchen items use decorative fonts. So we're going to address that because it has a special mode for that. So I mentioned all these different modes and channels. Let's talk about it. When you open up Sing AI, puts us in the short text, but there's so much more it can do. It has these things called channels. And the way we navigate between the channels with VoiceOver is different than in a lot of different apps that I've used before. So across the bottom quarter or so of the screen is this channels section. Now it's actually really easy to get to it with just a couple flicks to the right if you're using VoiceOver. If you're looking at the visuals, you might be able to see those buttons on the bottom of the screen, and they do get bigger if you set in your settings larger print. And if you don't have VoiceOver on and you touch these, it will tell you what they are. It will announce them out loud. But with VoiceOver, the way that we get to it is I'm just going to flick to the right.
Recognizing English, button, channel, short text, adjustable.
I get this channels. Right now it's on short text and it's adjustable. If you have VoiceOver hints turned on, it will even tell you what this next gesture we're going to use is, which is whenever anything is labeled as adjustable by the VoiceOver, we flick up
Document.
and down. So I flicked up to change to the document. If I flick down,
short text,
it switched me back to short text. If you are just doing with low vision, you just touch the buttons and you can slide them left and right to choose your channels. We're going to be using VoiceOver, so I'm going to be finding those channels at the bottom and then flicking
document.
So now I've got it in document mode. So we talked about short text, great for identifying something quickly, but what if we've got something bigger? I've got right here, I've got a exam report card for our dog Connor. So it's laid out kind of like an invoice. It does have paragraphs of text. It's got some various information. It's a little bit more complicated. I thought it would be a good example for this. So with document mode, what it does is when we point the camera at a piece of paper or an envelope or something that is rectangular in shape, it'll look for the corners of the document so that it knows it's got the entire thing in the camera's view. It'll take a picture of it automatically. I don't have to touch anything for that. I point it until it takes the picture, and then it will process the entire page all at one time, and then allow me to read it back using my VoiceOver gestures. Or if we're low vision, there's a play and pause button that we can use to get it to read to us. Now we're immediately going to encounter some interesting challenges here. First of all, I have a white desk, and this exam report card is on a white piece of paper. Since the app is looking for the corners of the page And if I give it a white on white background, it's going to have a heck of a time figuring out what the corners of that page is. I actually have a cutting mat. It's actually one you use like a craft cutting mat that's green. And I place that down and I'm putting my paper on top of that. So I've got some better color contrast. If you do follow me at this crafting, it does have all these numbers and warnings on it. So I've got it face down. So it's just a green background here. And now I've got to try to hold this phone steady. And we're immediately going to run into some problems. And
Pause recognition due to inactivity
here. Also, because I've got the app running, I didn't do anything for a while, so it paused. All I've got to do is pick the phone
Resume
up and start
recognition.
moving it. It'll start resuming. So I'm going to feel the back of my phone and find out where my camera is.
No edges visible.
You're going to find that the camera is in the back right corner if you're touching the face of the phone, and I'm going to place the center of that right on top of my page. So I've got my page on the table with my green contrasted background underneath it. The phone is right on top of it, and I'm going to raise it as straight up as I can. I'm going to try to raise it about a foot. A foot is a foot, maybe a little bit more is our target. That on most iPhones will be far enough away to see all the corners of a piece of paper. In fact, a foot will actually be big enough because of the way the camera's laid out to probably catch a legal size piece of paper as well. So I'm going to pick this up.
No edges visible. Hold steady.
When it thinks it sees it, it says hold steady. It's going to process it. Let's see how it does.
Back button.
So after it makes this sound, the ba-doop sound, I am now on a page with the scan results. If you have the visuals here, you might see there's a play button in the very bottom left corner. Since we're using VoiceOver, we can use VoiceOver's reading abilities to read this back. And that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to flick to the right.
Scan result. Heading.
Scan results. Flick to the right one more time.
This visit you were seen by Dr. Fisher and your technician was NG, CVT. Please take a moment to review the following patient summary. This is important information regarding your pet's visit and well care. If you have any questions regarding this summary, please call us at.
And it paused there. You notice it didn't say the phone number. That's because I did black out all the information here. You people on the Zoom chat here, I trust you. You guys are great, but we're putting this out on the internet. I don't know. I'm not putting phone numbers and addresses out, but I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about all those other people. So this will allow me to get those results. And I did a pretty good job, but to be quite honest, one of the reasons why I did a good job is I can see quite well. And although I didn't carefully look, I did this from practice. I've been taking photos forever, right? So I have a good idea about the angles of the camera. And that is going to be not nearly as easy for most people the first couple times that they do it. And if we're doing this at any regularity, this maybe works fine for this piece of paper, but let's say I'm trying to look through a stack of 20 pages here. This is going to get a bit tiring trying to get this lined up and picked up. And trust me, if I do this again, I'm going to actually, which I'm going to do right now, you notice the results are going to be inconsistent here. So I'm done reviewing this and I want to go back. Visually, there is an arrow at the very top left corner that is our back button. We can tap on that. We'll be right back in the document mode, ready to do another page here. Now, if I'm with VoiceOver, I could flick to the left and get to the back button, or I could try to find it by touching the top left corner. But I've told you we do tips here and tricks. The way I like to get back is with one of my favorite VoiceOver gestures that is highly underused, which is the 2-finger scrub. What I do is I take 2 fingers, almost like I'm making a peace sign, although you can keep them together, and I rub them back and forth on the phone. Some people do this by making a Z because you go, left, right, left, and that's enough. You can go left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, and then let go, and it works. Basically, you're acting like you're taking 2 fingers and you're wiping a smudge off the screen. If I do that,
recognizing English button, a photo containing a key.
It'll take me back out of the document results and put me back in document mode to do my next page. 2-finger scrubs, my favorite thing. So I mentioned that this can be a little bit, trying to get a new page every time can be tiring. I don't know how else to say it, or frustrating, because if I try to hold this up and I
No
hold
edges
it up
visible.
too quickly, or my hand's not perfectly
Bottom and
shaking
left
a little
edges
bit
not
too
visible.
much, trying to
Hold
get
steady.
it. There we go. I did not hold
Processing.
steady, which is probably most people, or if you haven't had your coffee
No
yet.
text recognized.
This time I didn't get any text recognized. I did this test right before, handheld again, and I got just mostly gobbledygook here. So it can be a bit inconsistent. I have to try over and over again. So what I like to do is I like to set myself up an impromptu stand if I'm going to be doing multiple pages over and over again. Now, there's a couple different ways you can get an iPhone stand. Now, if you do search Google, or they have a ton of iPhone document scanners that are basically stands that are designed to hold the phone up the correct height. They can, if you're going to do this a lot, they can be good. They tend to be overpriced. They tend to be cheap plastic. I really like two options. If you're going to buy one, you can buy an iPhone. I think it's an articulating arm, which is just basically like a rigid tube with an iPhone stand at the end that you can adjust and you can move things into position. It usually clamps onto a table. Or if you feel crafty, you can do what I did. And I actually made my own iPhone stand out of 1x2s, used a saw and wood glue and a single clamp. And so what I did was I made this stand here, which is just, I took 1x2 and I cut it about two of them about a foot. And then I put a crossbar that is cut to be 9 inches across. I chose 9 inches because I want an 8.5 sheet of paper to fit in between that stand. And then I made a neck out of that. That's just another 1x2s, and then a little arm. And then I used a little piece of plywood that I had left over and cut a stand for it. Now, if I have a stand like this,
Close button.
I can just
Recognizing
stick
English
my phone
button.
on it.
A white logo on a black background. Hold steady.
I can
Processing.
slide my document underneath, and I have this real steady, real consistent position, and I'll
Back
get a
button.
really good result.
Scan result. On this visit, you were seen by doctor, presenting today for limping on front right leg. Bows out now. When he gets excited, he will want to run, and runs like nothing.
So I'm going to skip ahead here through the descriptions here. So this little wooden stand has been really helpful, and I really like it, and is really great for doing quick scans. It took me like an hour to put together if I don't count the amount of time I had to wait for the wood glue to dry. But we don't all have to be carpenters to make a impromptu, useful iPhone stand. So I've got another example here. I'm going to take my phone down. I'm going to take my wooden creation and put that aside here. And I'm going to rig myself up a random one using these cookbooks. So I actually just got a stack of books that were that I was allowed to borrow here. We have quite a collection of cookbooks, and I picked them because they're big and they're thick. And I take enough of those to stack up about a foot, which is really convenient if you have a ruler. You can just put a ruler down and you want it about the height of the ruler. Honestly, a better guide is, I found that 12.5 inches is like my sweet spot for my phone. So if I stack these up, I've got this about a foot here, and then I find something rigid. You could use a piece of wood. I had this plastic level. I also had a ruler that worked pretty good. You want something that the phone can sit on, and I stack that on top, have that stick out about 4 to 6 inches. I put another book on that, and then I just, let me go back. I'm just doing my two.
Recognizing English button. A photo containing a keypad and a logo other. A photo containing a keypad and.
Okay. I stick that on top of my my impromptu stand, and I can slide my documents underneath.
Hold steady. Processing. Back button.
And I've got another set of pretty good. I'm going to
presenting today for limping on front right leg. Was brought in about a month ago for x-rays of shoulders. Due to limping RXOBLERNS.
So got a couple mistakes, but pretty good results. And all I did was a bunch of cookbooks, a plastic level, and then just stuck my phone on it. Like I said, you want that just to show you, I've got a plastic ruler here, and you'll see this is about a foot up. And that works really well. It's not the most elegant, and it is just a stack of books, so I could knock it over by accident. Or if I need one of these books, I'm going to have to do a little bit of trading here. But we don't have to. We can make this in a jiffy, and don't have to explore and get through all those expensive or kind of hard to move through, hard to organize through Amazon options. Yeah, I've bought a couple of those and had really mixed results. So I actually found that this set of books as a stand, you could even lean the books out a little bit if you and just make sure you try to level it a little better in order to if you don't have that rigid something to stick across. So it's it's an impromptu, but it works really well. So I'm gonna slide these books out of the way here. So one more thing about the document mode here. Each time I scan that, it brings me up the results here. I can flick through and I can read them, or I can press that play button to play them back. I'm going to jump to the very bottom though.
Share button.
And I jumped to the very bottom. I did do a quick gesture. I did a 4-finger tap on the lower half of the screen. That in VoiceOver jumps you to the bottom item. I could flick to the right, or I could drag my finger into the corner to find it. There's a share button down there. And if you do double tap or select
share
that
image button,
you'll have the option to share the picture that you've taken of the document, or
share text button.
Share the text. You could then email out, or you could text message, although some of these would be very long text message. You could save it into the Notes app. You can save your scanned results for later, so you don't have to come back and rescan whatever that important document was later. I really like that share ability, so that you can get that information out of the phone if you need to. So I'm going to cancel that.
Cancel button. Back button.
I'm going to hit that back button to go back to the main page.
Back. Recognizing English button. A photo contains.
And now we're going to talk about the next channel. So I'm going to flick to the right till I get to channels.
Menu button. Quick help button.
You'll notice as I move to the channels this time, there's a quick help button. I mentioned that when we first launch up a Seeing AI channel, it takes us to a help menu. This quick help will take us back through that. So if I do select that quick help, double tap.
Back, document, heading.
If I flick to the right.
Hold the camera over a printed page to capture it. After the text has been recognized, you can use VoiceOver commands to navigate it.
And I can flick to the right to hear a longer description instructions in the app. It even has a link to a YouTube video that covers in a little bit more detail as well. So I'm going to go back using my 2-finger scrub again.
Recognizing English button. A group of white logo. Right. Menu button. Quick help button. Take picture button. Channel document. Adjust.
So I get back to my channels, and remember we flick up to go to the next channel.
Product.
And we're on product mode. So product mode allows us to identify an item that is purchased in a store. It looks for the barcode on that particular product, and it will try to tell us what it is based off of an online database that it has, and in some cases give us additional information about that product. This can be a real hit or miss. I find the most common off-the-shelf items are there. So if you're going to the grocery store, you can have a lot of good success, scanning the Campbell soup, for example, that's been around forever. This SpaghettiOs is definitely going to work, being a Campbell's item here. But some of these smaller store-produced items, sometimes they don't always show up on this product scanner. I've had actually an incredibly high accuracy rate as far as it finding products. So it's worth trying. And you might be wondering, if I've got an item with the barcode on it, and I have to put the camera at it, how am I supposed to find that barcode in the first place? Which is a very good question. Now, they know when they designed this that finding a barcode was going to be challenging. So they provided a built-in support system for helping us find the barcode. That is when we point this at an item and it sees a barcode, but not well enough to scan it. It's going to make a sound, sort of a hot and cold beeping sound. The faster the beeping gets, the hotter, the closer it is to being able to scan it, and
Pause recognition due to inactivity.
And the slower it's going to beep slower and saying, oh, maybe we're moving in the wrong direction. If it doesn't see anything that it thinks is a barcode, it won't play anything at all. So I'm going to start with this can here. I'm going to hold this again about a foot away. I move a little bit closer for this one. Maybe around 8 inches is probably the right distance here. And I'm going to point it at the can. And right now, nothing's happening. Oh, I get a little boop, boop, boop. It thinks maybe there's a barcode here. It doesn't quite see it. I'm moving the phone around a little bit. Should move it slowly here. So if I'm doing it like in a little clockwise motion, nothing here. So I'm going to rotate the can in my hand. And I still got nothing. We'll rotate a little bit more. Maybe move the phone a little bit slowly.
Processing.
We found the barcode.
Campbell's SpaghettiOs pasta with sliced franks.
That time I did a good job. We didn't hear that beep, 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 beep sound. It got into view well enough to catch it right away. I'm going to see if I can get it to make that sound. I'm going to do that 2-finger scrub to go back into product mode.
Button.
I'm going to point this again at the camera, and I'm going to intentionally, it got it again.
Not recognized.
It must, this time it was on the curved part of the can. I'm just going to try that again.
Menu button.
I'm going to go a little bit faster. So you hear that beep, beep, beep means hold still. There it goes.
Campbell's SpaghettiOs pasta with sliced franks.
So with this, I'm able to identify exactly what this is. The Campbell's SpaghettiO pasta with sliced franks here. Now I can flick to the right.
Share button.
I've got that share button if I do want to share what I found with someone else.
More info, dimmed.
And I got a more info button in the bottom right corner, but it's dimmed, which means it's not available. So it's able to tell me these are SpaghettiOs, but it doesn't have anything else to tell me about that.
More info, dimmed.
Double tap.
More info, dimmed.
So I brought another example of an item I scanned that does have more information on it. So I'm going to do my 2-finger scrub again, or hit the back button in the top left corner. There we go.
Menu button.
And now I've got a bag here. And honestly, this is a bag of rice. And you probably don't necessarily need a barcode scanner to identify a bag of rice, right? We can feel it. We can feel the grains. It's pretty obviously a bag of rice here. But that doesn't mean that the product mode can't be helpful. I'm going to grab this bag here, point the product at it. So I'm not hearing anything here. I'll flip that bag over.
Processing. Close button. Nishiki rice sushi premium grade.
So, and we're not making sushi at home. We're not. I said I'm learning a little bit of Japanese, but yeah, for fun. But we're not. Sushi is a little. I mean, I do like sushi, but it's not. At home sushi is a little bit advanced. So, what we're going to do is I'm going to flick to the right to hear our options.
Share button.
All right, we're going to flick to the right again.
More info button.
More info is now available. I'm going to double tap on more info.
Play button. Back button.
Similar to the results we get from the document scanner, I can flick to the right to hear this description.
More info. Heading. Nishiki rice sushi premium grade. Heading level 2. Nishiki brand premium grade sushi rice. Using new milling technology Muse in my eye. Just add water. Medium grain rice specially selected. Convenient resealable bag. Directions. Cooking directions. Combine 1/2 cups rice and 2 cups water in medium saucepan. Bring to a soft boil. Reduce heat to low and simmer. Cover. So in addition to reading me some descriptions, it's starting to read me the cooking instructions. I really wish a lot more products had this. I've noticed a lot of like cake mixes tend to have them. Those microwave anything you might read in a microwave, they tend to have the directions, but a lot of other items do not. So it's a real hit or miss, and sometimes they have descriptions and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have cooking instructions and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they have nutritional information and sometimes they don't. They're working on updating this database all the time, but I have found a lot of cooking instructions. That makes it worthwhile.
Now, VoiceOver does tend to read this aggressively fast. And when we're trying to do some cooking, that can make it quite a challenge. So if you are familiar with the rotor on VoiceOver, I do like to set the rotor to line mode.
Headings, links, form controls, tables, lists, buttons, text fields, images, speaking rate, volume, containers, braille screen input, text selection, screen recognition, edit, characters, words, lines.
There we go. I have a lot of things in my rotor, as you've no doubt noticed. That's something that you can customize here. So I'm taking two fingers and I'm rotating them on the screen. That simulates using the rotor. And then whatever I have the rotor set to, in this case lines, I flick down.
Nishiki brand premium grade suit, technology muse, specially selected cooking directions.
There we go.
Combine 1/2 cups rice and 2 cups water.
All right, now it stops. I can flick down again.
In medium saucepan, bring to a soft boil, reduce heat to low, and simmer, covered, 20 minutes or until moisture is absorbed. Remove from heat.
So now I can flick down to read it line by line. I have a lot more control. I can flick up to go back to the previous line, and I can take my time reading this. I don't have a similar solution for the low vision. You hit that play button and it goes. But there is a plus and minus button for the visuals on the bottom right corner you can do to blow up the size of the text that's displayed if you can read it on the phone, for example. So that's the product mode here. Barcode scan reader takes a bit of practice to get really good at finding those barcodes and reading it. Work slow and then work your speed up until you find that you can do it consistently, and you'll start to get a feel for it. And then sometimes we've got cooking instructions. So I'm going to go back to that main page now, two finger
Close button.
Scrub there. I am now back on the results page, two finger scrub again.
Menu button.
When it says menu, I'm actually on the main page here. I'm going to flick to the right to channels.
Quick help button. Channel, product, adjust.
And we're going to adjust it to the next mode. So this next mode's kind of a fun mode. It is called
Person
mode. So person mode is for recognizing if there is a person there. Last episode, we talked a little bit about taking a selfie. This actually is a pretty decent tool for taking a selfie as well. What it does is when I point it at the camera around, if it sees a person, it will tell you. It sees them and about how far away they are. Now, on top of that, you can also take a picture and it will analyze that person and give you some basic details about them. It even tries to guess their age, which, depending on the person, you might want to have headphones in. They might not appreciate the results. But it actually tends to age people lower, so you're actually pretty safe. You can also add to it a list of faces that it will recognize. Now, the person has to take a selfie on your phone in order to add themselves to the list of faces that it recognizes. And for those of you who are worried about privacy, especially around facial recognition, you should know that this processing of the face only happens on your phone. It's not going up to Microsoft servers. They're not creating a catalog of all the faces that are taken. But that is a reasonable thing to worry about, because there was a famous tool on the internet a while ago that you could take a picture of yourself and upload it to a server, and it would tell you which celebrity you look like. And that particular tool was actually creating a giant facial recognition catalog for a foreign government. So we're not going to get into that particular story, but being a little bit worried about your privacy and technology is a healthy thing. So I've got it set on person mode. And I know all this is on device, so I know this is one of the nicer or safer tools here. I'm going to begin pointing it. So it uses the back-facing camera by default. So I'm going to turn this around and face myself.
One face near center, 3 feet away.
It sees a picture it sees me, and it gives us a little bit of a description.
0 faces.
Well, not a description, but how far away that person is. But we can get a description. I want to show something, though. It does a really good job finding me, but I also wanted to show you that it can be tricked pretty easily. It's not there to just tell you if there's a person there. It's there to tell you if there's a face there. So what I have is a old picture of myself that's framed when I was in the Music Man in high school. My parents were very proud and they made this frame for me. And if I point this at the
One face near left. One
picture,
face near left edge. 5 feet away.
it thinks that's it thinks that's a person because, well, it is
One
a
face
person.
near.
Just
One
doesn't
face
know
near.
that
One
it's
0
not a
faces.
person in the room. So if I hold this up to myself,
2 faces.
it thinks there's 2
0
people
faces.
there. This is good to know in case you're using this app and you think you're alone in the room and you start moving it around and it identifies a person and then you say hello and then they don't reply. And then you start to get a little spooky because it's October, we're getting close to Halloween, and you start to worry that there's either a ghost or some really creepy person in the room when it's just a portrait on the wall, for example. So just tells you their face. Also, the person has to be facing the camera in order for it to work. It cannot get the back of a head as a person. It's looking for 2 eyes, a nose, and a mouth. That's how it knows it's a person. So let's talk about getting that description now. So I know I can turn this on, turn it around the room. It will find any people that are facing me and any portraits that are on the wall. If I hold this up, there is another mode. I'm going to flick to the left here because I'm on channels right now.
Switch to front camera button. Take picture button.
There's a big take picture button. And if you're using the visuals, you just tap the center of the screen to do that. With voiceover, flick to the left if you're on channels and you'll get the take picture. Point this and then double tap.
One face near left. One face near center. 3 feet away.
I
Processing.
just double tapped.
43-year-old man with brown hair looking happy.
Okay, yeah, I'm not quite 40 yet, but it's not that far off. And I was given a little bit of a smile, not the best smile here. And it tells you a little bit more information about them. Now, I mentioned you could use this if you're taking a photo. If I flick to the right,
Save photo button.
there's an option to save that photo to your phone's camera roll, as if you just took a picture. So it's a decent way to line up and take a picture of someone as well. I'm going to 2-finger scrub.
0 face recognition button.
So I can use it to identify as a person. I can double tap to take a picture and get some information about the person and even save that image. And finally, I mentioned that we can use it to identify specific people here. And you might have heard when I came back here that there was a button. It's usually near the very top of this list here.
Face recognition button.
Called the face recognition button. Now, when I turn on the face recognition button, I give that a double tap.
Close. Recognize new person. 1 face near center. 3 feet away. 0 faces.
What it does is it turns on the front-facing camera. And if I flick to the right,
Quick help button. Switch to back camera. Take picture button.
there's a take picture button. And what I do is I have the person hold the phone so that they can, their face is in the screen. As you'll see, it even gives
1 face near
directions.
1 face near center. 2 feet away.
And then I double tap on the screen to have them take a picture. We take 3 pictures this way. Now, it is slightly important that they have whatever their normal facial expressions are here. Because if I put a really big smile on all 3 of these, and then I walk up to you, you've got this pointed at me, and I'm really angry, my face is significantly different in its appearance. So you want a good neutralish look.
Take picture dimmed. Take picture button.
Double tap to take picture, and I do that 3 times.
Take picture dimmed.
There's my
Take
second
picture
time.
button.
One more time, double tap.
Take picture dimmed. Text field is editing. Enter person's name. Character mode. Insertion point at start.
So up on the screen, it asks for the person's name. I can type it in with the keyboard, or if you're familiar with the 2-finger double tap or the magic tap, I can dictate in a name. Jonathan. So I just did a 2-finger double tap, said Jonathan, a 2-finger double tap again. Usually, and this is because I've got this thing wired into this computer and I'm streaming the audio, usually it'd say inserted Jonathan. It did say that, but I don't think you heard it because of this whole audio routing thing here. So now what I can do is I can flick to the left.
Done button.
And there's a done button. I can double tap.
Done dimmed. Back button.
So now I'm on a page of, if I flick to the right,
Recognizable people heading.
I can even flick to the right.
Add button.
And add another person here, but I'm going to do a 2-finger scrub because I want to get back to that main page and I want to see if it can recognize me now.
0 face recognition button. Cap F. Foxtrot.
Okay, so I'm going to now point this at me. Let's see if it recognizes me.
One face Jonathan near center, 3 feet away.
So there we go. It actually recognizes who it is and gives me the
0
name.
faces.
So with the person mode, I can add in people to do facial recognition. I can use it to identify people how many people are in the room and how close they are for me, assuming they're facing you. And I can take a picture, get a description. And that's the person mode there. So if I flick to the right again, let's go and change to the next mode.
Menu button, quick help button, take picture button, switch to front camera button, channel, person, adjustable.
So I'm going to flick up now.
Currency.
And I'm now on currency mode. So currency is just for identifying money. It's quick and it's easy to use. I have 2 different bills here. One is a single, one's a 20. I don't want to mistake the 2 for each other. So I'm going to take one of the bills. I've got the currency mode turned on and I'm just going to quickly point it.
Quick help, recognizing U.S. dollars button. 20 U.S. dollars. 1 U.S. dollar.
There we go. Here, well, I'm going to have another
1
audio
US dollar.
problem here. So I pointed at the bill and it can identify what type of currency it is. Now, the nice thing about this is I don't need to have the whole bill in view here. In fact, if I fold this over 3 times over, so now I've just got maybe a quarter of the bill visible. It's going to turn me into a liar right now.
20 U.S. dollars. 1 U.S. dollar.
Oh, there we go. I need a little bit more
1
than
US
half
dollar.
the bill this time here. Usually it doesn't need that much.
20 U.S. dollars. 1 U.S. dollar.
So I actually pointed at the bill. Looks like half is about what I actually want here, and it will quickly identify what type of bill it is. I mean, that's basically what it is. You go up to currency mode, point it at a bill, and then I could choose, okay, this is a 1, I'm going to fold this over once. This is a 20, I'm going to fold this over, 4 times, whatever method you might have. People want to know more about money management methods, keeping things in your wallet straight. I might actually ask one of our counselors who does just into blindness training. She's got a great lesson she has on keeping track of all your bills. Although we're doing a lot of credit cards right now, aren't we? But that's the currency mode. And I'm going to show you at the end, because you might notice, okay, I want to get currency read with the Seeing AI. I have to open the Seeing AI app, find my way to channels, flip it up a couple of times to get to currency, and then point it. It's not really the fastest method. And if I was trying to find out that answer very quickly, I'm at a retailer, for example, and I want to be able to identify that I was given the correct change, for example, I don't want to have a bunch of steps in between it. Now, there are other apps on the phone that specialize just in currency, and I actually do like those as well.
Messages.
If I can just flip real quickly here,
page
for
2
example.
of 4. Page 3 of 4.
Consulting topics.
iNote.
Oh, sorry, I accidentally turned on one of my podcasts there. I have an app called iNote, and iNote is an app that just checks for money. I can ask Siri to open up iNote, point it at the bill, and get the answer really quickly. So I do like having these standalone apps that could do it. But before we're done here,
Home messages 1.
open Seeing AI. Before we're done today here, I'm going to show you how to create a Siri shortcut so that Siri will open Seeing AI and put you right in the money mode, so you don't have to carry or load in 2 apps if you don't want to. So we're going to come back to that at the end here when we're done with the channels here. So currency mode, pointed at the money, tells you what it is. Pretty simple. I'm going to flick to the right now until I get back to channels.
Quick help button, recognizing you, channel, currency, adjustable.
All right, I'm going to flick up again to go to the next option.
Scene, preview.
So we have a mode called the Scene Preview. Now this one's called Preview because Microsoft doesn't consider this particular channel done. It's a work in progress. And they would like you to take that into consideration as you use it. It means the accuracy rating is going to be low, but high enough that you might find the information particularly useful. I'm going to give you a demonstration to see exactly how this works here. So let's use it to look at one of the props that we have here. I'm going to use this can here. The way that scene works is you point it at the object and you find the take picture button. I'm going to flick to the left to get to that.
Take picture button.
All right, I'm going to point this at my can here, and I'm going to double tap.
Take picture. Processing. Probably a group of cans on a blue surface.
And I get information that, if you told me to look at this picture, I would say, well, that's a can of SpaghettiO sitting on a green mat on a white desk. And it just says probably a group of cans on a blue surface. Not as useful as the other modes here, but there are some interesting applications for this all the same. Let me give it something different that I think is a really interesting application instead. So I'm going to do my 2-finger scrub to go back to the main
Menu
mode here.
button.
I'm going to flick to the right.
Quick help button. Take picture button.
So I'm on the take picture button, and this time I'm going to point it at my bookshelf, which has got some various books on it right behind me here. And I'm going to give it a double tap.
Take picture. Processing. Close button. Probably a clock on a bookshelf.
So probably a clock on a bookshelf. And it's mistaking, I have a little commemorative plate from a trip that I took, and it's mistaking that plate as a clock. But this is not the interesting thing I wanted to show you here. I took a picture of a bookshelf. So there's a bunch of books there with a bunch of text on it. If I flick to the right here,
Save photo button.
option to save the photo.
Share button. Explore photo button.
There's this feature called Explore Photo. When Explore Photo is on, I can drag my finger around that image and it will try to read the various individual items that were in that photo. Since I took a picture of a bookshelf, that will hopefully, if I pointed this out correctly and if it matches the other times I practice this, give me the names of some of those books. Because it's got a bunch of text. This could be used to try to find a sign at an intersection, for example. It's not perfect, but with some trial and error, you might find it useful here. So let me show you how this Explore Photo works. I'm going to double tap on Explore Photo, and visually it's the bottom right button on the screen.
Back button. 17 items detected. Move your finger over the screen to explore.
So found 17 different items, which makes sense. I've got a very busy bookshelf over here. I'm going to start dragging my finger across this screen.
17 items detected. Move your finger over the screen to explore.
Now you might hear a little sound of sound. It hasn't found anything yet. I'm going to keep going down.
Book contains text. Deep Work Cal Newport off. American Sign Language Dictionary 41.
So I found 2 books together here, a book called Deep Work and American Sign Language Dictionary. We'll drag to the right.
Book contains text. DOIT shut the do.
Wow, that's Don't Shoot the Dog. Didn't quite catch that.
HA. Book contains text. Smarter, faster, better, Charles Duhigg. 9 hyphens. Book contains text. iOS 9 Swift Programming Cookbook.
So obviously, I'm not going to be able to use this to probably conceptually figure out exactly where that book is. I know it's somewhere on the bottom left corner where I took the photo, but it lets me know an idea of what's there. I could then use the short text mode to pull out a book and try to read those individual books, but it gives me a broader overview of everything that is there that has text. So works great for signage, for example, works great for this bookshelf. It might work great on the shelf at a store, for example, to get some additional information about what's there. To get out of this mode, I tap the top left corner. There's a back button, or I do a 1-finger double tap with VoiceOver. And it will take me out of there, put me back on the results.
Probably a clock on a bookshelf.
2-finger scrub to go back again.
Menu button.
And I'm back in the original scene mode. So we take a picture, it tries to describe it to us. The more distinct the picture it has, the better description you get. If you take a picture of a bookshelf or a street sign, you can then explore the image to find the text on it and get additional information about the photo. So it's got some interesting applications to it. But it is a very much a trial and error, a work in progress that they are including this here, which is the reason why is they call
Channel
it
scene preview adjustable.
Similarly to the scene preview, similarly as a work in progress, the next option on here, as I flicker up, is
Color preview blue.
color mode. Now this color mode, you're supposed to be able to point at something and it tells me the color of it. If you've used any color identification apps before, you might be skeptical about this working particularly well, and you'd be right. There's a lot of variation from what the camera sees to how much light there is in a room to the tone of the lights. If you're in a bedroom, the lights tend to be a bit more orange or warmer. If you're in a kitchen, the lights tend to be bluer or lighter, and that can taint the visual color as far as what the camera can see. People are really good at processing. Well, people are pretty good at processing color.
Teal.
But
Gray.
this app's kind of a hit or miss.
Teal.
So I was thinking, how would
Brown.
we use this? So,
Gray.
yes. Sorry, I'm pointing it at my desk here, and it's it's trying to read the color of the desk here. I try to think, what's a good example of a way someone might want to use this, and that might be identifying clothing, for example. So I brought some clothes with me. And we're going to see how well it does with each of these. So let me start here, and I've got a pair of good old American blue jeans. Now they're a bit worn. Well, let's see if the color identifier will tell me about these.
White.
So I'm
Gray and
pointing
black.
this about 6
Gray.
feet away.
Gray and black. Black. Black and gray.
So it's not
White.
even giving me the blue here. Now, part of that
Gray.
is because the lighting in here, the light coming off of, I've got some lights here so that I look good for the visuals here, and I've got the light coming off
White.
of the phone because it thinks that maybe some areas are dark, and so it's illuminating the screen.
White.
And in that process, it's blowing out the colors, and I'm not getting the blue. And I've actually almost never gotten this color identifier to call my pair of jeans blue or even purple. So if I don't know, maybe I have a gray set and it's calling these gray. So not great for those blue jeans here. Well, let's pick something very distinct. I have a shirt that is red with some black stripes. It is the reddest red that I have. It is a very distinct color.
White.
If I point this at it,
Red.
I get the red. I don't know the pattern of this though, right? If I move this around, I might get, if I move it
Orange
closer,
and red.
get too close,
Red.
I get orange in the light. I'm holding it a little farther apart, I get
Red and gray.
red. So
Gray.
that might be useful if I'm trying to identify my red versus my blue shirt. A better example of what it can do. It says everything's gray sometimes. So I have a gray shirt here, and if I point
White.
it at this,
Gray.
it is going to tell me gray.
White.
It's got some other colors. If I move it around,
Blue.
blue.
Gray. Gray and blue.
That is a
White.
pretty accurate description of it. But I do
Gray.
say that anything that's not a distinct color gets called gray. So, you got to be careful about that recognition. I decided to throw a real curveball at it here. And because it is October, I have a seasonal tie here, which has got a pattern on it. Let's see how it does with
White.
this.
Black. Black and orange. Black.
Moving it around, black and orange is correct,
White.
and it might be enough information.
Gray.
But what I've found is kind of interesting because this is a patterned tie here. If I go,
Channel. Color.
Back to
Preview.
channels.
Adjust scene. Preview.
I'm gonna put this on scene mode.
Take picture. Button.
Point this at this and take a picture.
Take. Processing. Probably a group of carved pumpkins.
This has a bunch of jack-o'-lanterns on it, probably a group of carved pumpkins. I can identify what tie this is. Now that helps because this pattern is very distinct. If this was a striped pattern, I don't always get that description, but if it has recognizable objects, it missed the candy corn. But I don't think anybody really misses candy corn. But that's another way we can use to identify clothing that we might have a distinct pattern on it, is to actually use the scene identifier. So I'm going to do a two-finger scrub to go back.
Menu. Channel. Color. Preview. Blue.
Go back down the channels at the bottom, flick up, put us back on color, And that's sort of an idea of the color identification. It is a work in progress, and they may come up with a way of making its accuracy much higher. They just run it through this system and they teach it and they make it much smarter and smarter. So eventually it hopefully will become significantly more useful. But from my experience, it's been so mixed that you're better off coming up with another alternative, either organizing, sorting, labels, or we're even going to talk about an app in the future called Wayfind that has a cool way of organizing clothes as well. So the next mode is another, and I think it's the last of the experimental ones. I'm going to flick up to get to it.
Handwriting preview.
We have handwriting. And after handwriting, we've got one more mode, and then I'm going to go strictly into some Siri tips for this app here. So handwriting mode, also in preview for recognizing handwritten notes. This is another one that's a real mix here. And to show you, I've got two handwritten notes. One I wrote carefully. It's probably closer to my wife's handwriting because she's got nice penmanship and I quite frankly do not. So I wrote a nice handwritten note here. And then I wrote what I called a realistic handwritten note, which is a closer representation of my handwriting, which is not too bad, but it's sloppy, but it's not incomprehensible. We'll word it that way here. And as long as I'm not too tired, that's about what it looks like. When I get tired, it gets real sloppy. So that's why I type everything now. But I want to see, will this handwriting work? This would be great for instance, like a birthday card or a quick handwritten message or a Post-it note. So with handwriting mode, unlike document mode or short text, when your document mode finds the corners and knows where the picture is, or short text reads as soon as it sees, I have to take a photograph on this one, like seen, which means I have to be pretty decent at pointing the camera reliably at the thing I want to type. So it is something that I want to identify. It is something that takes some practice to get really good at. So I'm going to, this would also be a good use of one of our stands, for example. So I've got it in handwriting mode. It's on right now. VoiceOver is focused on channel. I'm going to flick to the left.
Take picture button.
Put me on the take picture button. I'm going to place my camera on top of the item I want to get a picture of. I'm going to lift my camera up and I'm going to double tap.
Take picture. Processing. My handwriting.
So now it's going to pull the text out and I can flick to the right to read it. If you don't have VoiceOver turned on, it just reads it automatically. So it said my handwriting. Let's flick to the right again.
Is not normally. This nice. Jonathan.
Never was a more honest handwritten note. Did a really good job. And I've got, it's a nice handwriting, but it's not like super close to print. It's a realistic handwriting. It's just not my handwriting. So let's flip over to my next card and give this one a try. I'm going to do my 2-finger scrub to get back to the previous
Menu
screen.
button.
Flick right this time.
Quick help button. Take picture button.
And we're going to try this again. I do want to note that if the notepad or the document in any of these modes here is not perfectly faced right side up, in fact, I did this one at a diagonal, it'll still get it. It does not have to, you do not have to have this thing perfectly parallel with your material in order for it to work. It helps sometimes, but upside down, it really doesn't matter. And at angles, it tends to work really well. Also, I'm going to intentionally put an angle on this one. And I'm going to lift this up about 8 inches to a foot, double tap.
Take picture. Processing. This is my Novo Mal. Handwriting. Did this one work?
So that one, it made some mistakes. Instead of normal, it said noval. And to be honest, that is kind of what it looks like on this handwritten note here. Did this one work? And it missed
Save
my
photo.
name.
One work.
And my name is really, hey, my name is real sloppy. I used to work as a respite care worker with kids with disabilities, and I had to write up like 5 reports every day and sign them. And your handwriting listen, your signature gets sloppy after that. So I started to get a little bit more of a doctor signature, and it's haunted me the rest of my life. Actually, it doesn't matter too much. Nobody checks the signatures that much. But this thing can never get my signature. I've tried a couple of them. So I can figure out what's in that message though, right?
This is my Novo Mal. Handwriting. Did this one work?
Yeah, so pretty decent recognition here. And that's with my sloppy handwriting. So it is an interesting tool. I did notice that if I take a big notebook with a lot of writing on it, it does seem to make some more mistakes. It tends to do better with larger print if you can get close to it. So if you do have like a notebook, sometimes I'll try to take a picture and grab it in sections rather than the whole thing all at once, so I can get a little bit closer to the subject. If you're anything like, I've got a good friend and his handwriting is nice but microscopic, and so we just have to get closer for those. So it's an interesting mode, and I've noticed handwriting recognition has been getting a lot better the last couple of years. So with that, I'm going to go back here.
Menu button.
One more mode, a couple more tips, and we're all experts in seeing AI after this. So let me flick to the right again.
Quick help button. Take picture button. Channel. Handwriting. Preview. Adjustable.
So this last mode here, before I turn it on, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit. This last mode is the light sensor. And so the light sensor is for people who cannot perceive any light. And they want to know if the room is bright enough, or if the light is on in the room, or which light is on in the room. So one thing I didn't mention earlier is a lot of these modes, recognizing text, recognizing documents, almost all the recognition, we do want to have a good amount of light in the room. So if it's dark and we don't have a lot of lights on, it's not going to be able to recognize things as well, because the picture gets grainy. It can't see all the details. And as it loses, as the image gets messier, because it's having to use having to adjust the image to make it more visible, we lose accuracy. So having a well-lit room is good. Well-lit room is good, but how do we know if the room is well lit or if the light is on if we cannot perceive that light? And there is a lot of alternative methods. Like, for instance, almost all the light switches in our house, if the flip is switched up, the lights are on. If it's down, it's off. Although we do have some 2- and 3-way light switches, so that's not perfectly reliable. And most lights give off heat, which we can, and sometimes just sitting in the room, if we focus on it, we can actually feel that heat, although LEDs are pretty cool nowadays. That would be harder. So in all those cases where you want to get more information about the light in the room, there's this lighting mode, and it represents the brightness of the light by a sound tone. So I'm going to flick up here.
Light. Handwriting preview.
I'm going to flip out of there. So the deeper the tone, the darker. So it started at low because I had my phone face down. Not face down, camera down, face up, camera down on my table. And so it was all black. So we got a deep tone. And as I picked it up, I get a higher tone that was more representative of the room. And then as I lifted up, I pointed at one of the lights. So if you're ever curious what my lighting setup is, if you saw my preview on the screen, you got to see I've got a what we call a ring light. And that's that brighter light, that high pitched sound is the light that's actually pointed at me to make sure that everybody using the visuals can see me well. And so that's what it does. It plays a tone. And if I point it at various parts of the room and it's high pitched tone, I know that there's a light source over there. Maybe it's a window, or if it's nighttime, maybe that's a light that's on. I go, oh, the corner light is on, because that it's playing a very loud tone when I point it in that direction. And that's what the light mode is. So I'm not going to leave it on because it's kind of loud with the way we've got set up, but it just plays that tone to let you know the brightness. And I've always wondered, if you probably set up a couple lights and ran it back and forth, you could probably have a decent musical instrument on your hands too with that app. So those are all the channels that come on Seeing AI, but that's not all that Seeing AI can do. There is one more feature that is tied closer to the scene mode. That's not one of the channels, and it's only found in the menu. Now you can get to the menu from any of the channels, by flicking to the left enough times or tapping the hamburger, as they call it, 3 little lines. Looks like an equal sign with an extra line in the top left corner. I'm going to get there with voiceover, so I'm going to flick to the left.
Take picture button. Quick help button. Menu button.
There's our menu button. I'm going to double tap.
Close button.
And it opens up a menu. There's a button to close it. I'm going to flick to the right.
Browse photos button.
And here is this extra mode, the Browse Photos button. What the Browse Photos button does is it opens up the images that are in your camera roll or in your Photos app and allows you to analyze those previously taken photos. Let me show you what I mean. Double tap on Browse Photos.
Back button.
It's going to load up those pictures. I'm going to flick to the right. Now, a couple of these pictures are going to give you the dates and a couple are going to give you descriptions. The description ones are the ones that I've played with before. The first time you go to a photo, if you've never used this again, you're going to get just the date. Let me flick to the right and show you what I mean.
Browse photos, heading, quick help button. A dog lying on a green blanket, Tuesday. Probably a dog standing on a wood table. Probably a plate of birthday cake. Photo, September 25th.
So I'm getting to a bunch of these that just say photo and the date. I'm going to pick one out here.
Photo, September 23rd.
So here's a photo I took on the 23rd. I don't know what this is a picture of. So I'm going to one finger, double tap.
Date expand button, processing. Scene, probably a couple of dogs sitting on a couch.
Now it's actually just one dog sitting on a couch. It's my dog, but he's on a blanket and sometimes it looks like there's a bunch of dogs.
Location, Plymouth, MN.
Flick to the right, tells me my location.
Date, Wednesday, September 23rd, 2021, 16 p.m.
And if I flick to the right, I can also use that explore feature.
Back button. Toolbar, share, reanalyze, delete button, explore photo button.
And I can drag my finger across and explore this image as well. What's really nice about this is it takes that short description and it sticks it into the photo browser. So if I do my 2-finger scrub to go back.
Probably a couple of dogs sitting on a couch, Plymouth, MN, September 23rd.
As I flick through the photos now, it's going to leave that description there. So if I flick to the right again.
Photo, September 23rd.
I get another photo. I'm going to double tap to analyze this one.
Processing, cancel button. Scene, probably a table with a couch and a couch in the background.
So it got from this, there's a table. This is a coffee table that I actually just finished making myself, and it's next to a couch. And there's not a couch, there's a bookshelf in the background, but it's a pretty decent description. That probably gives me an idea of maybe what I took that photo of. I'm going to use my 2-finger scrub to go back.
Photo, September 20th, probably a table with a couch and a couch in the background, Plymouth.
So this is an alternative way of exploring your photos. You browse them by date, double tap to analyze them, get a AI description of it, and you can then choose from there. You can delete the photo if you decide that you don't want that image anymore. We'll delete it from your photo library, or you can even send it or share it or text it out. Now we're going to be doing another session talking about some of the new features in iOS 14, and iOS 14 actually has a new image recognition system built into Photos. But sometimes this app with Seeing AI with Microsoft gives me a little bit more information than what they have built in. And so I do really like this Browse Photos mode. It always will show your photos by default, the newest photos at the top and the oldest photos at the bottom. That's just notable because that's the opposite of the way that they sort them in the Photos app. So I think they like this one because if I just took a picture, I can open up Seeing AI, go to Browse Photos, and the first option is that most recent photo. And I do think that's a good way of going about it too. So that's the last hidden, I call it a hidden mode because it's in the menus there. But it's not the last thing I want to tell you about this app here. So I'm going to do my 2-finger scrub to get out of Browse Photo mode.
Menu button.
I could also have tapped the top left corner of the back button, and I'm going to go back to that menu.
Close button.
And I'm going to show you one more thing that's really useful. So these modes are, these various channels are very helpful. And if you're using short text a lot, when you open up the app, it goes straight to short text. That is great. But if there's a particular mode, I mentioned the money recognition mode, for example, or maybe after you take a photo, you like to go straight to the Browse Photos so you can quickly analyze that image. There is a way to set up Siri commands to take you to the specific sections of Sing AI that you like to use. This is a new feature. It's actually been around a little bit of a while in Sing AI, but you're going to see this pop up into more and more apps because this is actually something that Apple allows developers to do. That is to create their own Siri commands that you can add through inside of your favorite apps. So I'm going to flick to the right from the from this main menu
Browse
to get to
photos
settings.
button. Help button. Feedback. Settings button.
And I'm going to give settings a double tap.
Back button.
So in settings, I'm going to flick through the various options here. The first one's going to be currency if you wanted to change what type of money you're recognizing.
Settings heading. Currency button.
But what we're really interested in is
Configure Siri shortcuts button.
configure Siri shortcuts. I'm going to double tap on that.
Select the activities which you wish to use with Siri shortcuts heading.
Now, as I flick to the right, I'm going to hear each of those channels and I'm going to hear the recognize photos option. And if I want to add a Siri command to perform one of those actions, I just double tap or select that one. Let's use the currency because that's one that's I think is kind of buried in there. And if we're going to use it in any regularity, we're going to want to be able to get there quickly. So I'm going to flick to the right till I hear currency.
Recognize short text. Recognize document. Recognize product. Recognize person. Recognize currency.
All right, let's double tap.
Cancel button.
And pops up this new add to Siri window. This is from here on out. If you were adding a Siri command in a different app, these next few steps are exactly the same in all those apps. This is a standard window where it's going to ask me what I want to say. It's going to tell me what it will do, and it will allow me to add that to Siri. I'm going to flick to the right to hear what is the voice command that they've provided me.
Add to Siri heading. Add a custom phrase Siri can use to tell Sing AI to run this shortcut. When I say.
So when I flick to the right, I'm going to hear that command.
Recognize currency text field.
I've got a text field here. And in fact, if I flick to the right again,
Clear text button.
there's a clear text button. I don't like recognize currency. I want to change this to identify money. I think I like that a little bit better. So I'm going to double tap on this clear.
Clear text.
Up comes the keyboard. I'm going to do a 2-finger double tap to dictate my preferred voice command. Identify money. I'm doing my 2-finger double tap to commit that. Once again, because of my audio rigging, you're not hearing it say inserted identify money, but that's what's going to do for you. And then I can even find there's a done button in the bottom right corner.
Done.
I can flick to the right to get that as well. I'm going to double tap to say I'm
Done.
done with that.
Recognize currency.
So now I'm going to, so that's the do here. I'm going to flick to the left so you can hear.
Do. Clear. When I say.
Flick to the right.
Identify money text field. Clear text. Do. Heading.
So when I say identify money, it's going to
Recognize currency.
open the recognize currency mode.
Add to Siri
Flick
button.
to the right one more time. We're going to double tap.
Back button.
And it's already there. In fact, if I leave the app,
Messages.
now I can activate Siri. Identify money. It opens me up. Puts
S.
me,
Dollars. 20 U.S. dollars.
puts me into the currency mode immediately. So I can follow these exact same steps. I'm going to go to the
Quick menu button.
menu at the top. Go to settings.
Settings. Back.
And go to configure Siri shortcuts, and you can add in as many of these as you want. You just have to remember what your commands are. If you forget, you can go back into configure Siri shortcuts, select the one for identify money again. This was, and it will tell you what your voice command was. There's also an app called Shortcuts on the phone. You can actually say open shortcuts. You flick to the right, you'll hear all of your custom commands listed in that app as well. That's a big app. That would require a whole nother session to get into. But the configure Siri shortcuts is particularly useful. There's also an option in here. If I flick to the right,
Settings. Currency. Configure Siri shortcuts button. Configure haptic touch shortcuts. Reorder channels button.
Where you can change the order of the channels that appear when you open the app. I'm going to double tap on that.
Drag channels into the order you wish to see them in the channel switcher. Deselect a channel to hide it. Heading.
So if I flick to the right here,
Selected. Short text. Actions available. Reorder short text. Selected. Short text.
so I hear short text. I don't want short text. I can do a one finger double tap
Short text.
and it will turn short text off. It doesn't give me a great description for voiceover that's what it's done, but
Selected. Short text.
I'm going to select it again. I don't want to remove it here, but you can actually remove channels you don't want. If I move on to the
Reorder short text button.
reorder short
Draggable.
text,
Action. Move down.
you can do a
Activate. Default. Move down.
you can do a flick up and flick down. It's an actions tool, so I can flick down and say
Activate. Default. Move down.
move down, double tap,
Move below document.
and move short text below document. I'm going to flick down again.
Move down. Activate. Default. Move up.
I'm going to move it back up again. I'm going to double tap.
Move above document.
So I can turn short text on and off. I can move it with the flick up, flick down, and double taps. Or if you're doing it visually, you just drag. There's a set of 3 buttons on the side. You just tap and drag that down to change the order. So I can change the order and I can remove items from the channels as well. I'm going to do a
Short text. Back.
2-finger
Button.
scrub to go back here.
Back. But
Also in the settings here, you can change things like what's the voice that it's using, for example, as well. Well, I've kept you here for about an hour and a half. I've taken you through all the channels that Seeing AI have. I've showed you how to configure Siri shortcuts to get to your favorite ones. Right now, you should have a very good understanding about what Seeing AI is, what it's good at, what it's maybe not as good at, and how to customize it with your own voice commands as well. So I am going to open this up for anybody who's a Zoom meeting to ask any questions here. We might hang out for just a little bit longer, but it does conclude the main portion of our presentation here. So with that, I'm going to flip away from the iPhone here, and we're going to move over into the Q&A section. I've got a little transition for us here too. All right. So if you haven't joined us here, feel free to unmute yourself. I'm going to put the option to unmute everybody here if they would like to. So if you're attending and you would like to ask a question, please feel free to unmute yourself. And just to make sure, because I've got it listed out here, if you are on a computer and you would like to unmute yourself, if you're on a Windows computer, that is Alt-A. If you're in an Apple computer, that's Command-Shift-A. If you're in an iPhone, you're going to flick to the right until you hear mute and unmute and double tap. Same thing if you're an Android phone, or if you've called in, that is *6 to unmute. Otherwise, I'm giving anybody else a chance to join in here. There is one more thing about Seeing AI that I didn't mention about the voices. That's just interesting to know. In the settings section, where we flip through and
currency button,
and we have all of our various menus here. There is a section marked
button.
Speech, where you can select a voice, and that voice is actually not what's used everywhere on the phone. It's the voice that you set in the settings on Seeing AI will change the voice when you've got voiceover off and you're pointing it towards something and it's reading it. If you hit the read button on the screen, once again, this is more for the visual aspects to it. It will read in a different voice than the voice you set in settings, which might seem a bit odd. And that's because it pulls not the voice settings from the settings app in Seeing AI. You actually have to go to settings, accessibility, and then spoken content. And that's where you choose the voice that plays in Seeing AI when it reads. So if you were noticing that, I had some people who were playing with it and they were getting real frustrated because they're like, I've gone into Seeing AI, I went into the menu, I went into settings, I went to select voice, and it doesn't listen to me. That is because you have to change it actually in the general settings under accessibility. Just a weird little note that I found. And it does kind of explain that to you in the menu. It's adjust speech for announcements. This setting will not affect voiceover users, but it also doesn't affect the reading menu. So just a general tip here. So if anybody out there does have questions and they were not able to unmute themselves, if there's a technical issue or I didn't hit the right button here for all I know, you can always get a question in for one of our normal sessions by calling our question line 2 as well. That's 320-428-0122. That just goes to a voicemail that I get, and I will roll that into the next episode as long as it makes sense to do so. And of course, you can, if you're one of my clients, you can always reach out to me with the question as well if you were unable to ask it during this session. So, well, I don't want to keep anybody any longer than we need to. We're hit about 3:35 here, so I'm just going to thank everybody for joining us here. And please, with that number too, if you have any feedback or ideas, or you can always email me, or you can call in to that number. So everybody have a good and safe weekend here, and try to stay warm as we approach the fall. And thanks again for joining us.